I want to go to a department store where there are rats.
I hope she used a condom.
I think it passed the Bechdel test.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck?
You are so twisted.
Welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? We have Betsy White, the Madame of Wenches Local Guild 73, and soon to be new co-host on our new podcast, Girls Ghosts Ghouls, along with Rebecca Cunningham, who'll be with that from a previous episode. You might remember her. And of course, we got John Paul Mantilia, and he is also of Schlockfest, though that's not as good as this. And and we're going to be discussing Simply Irresistible, also known as the Magic Crab movie. The Magic Crab.
Magic Crab.
I would like to point out that this is because of John Paul. So, John Paul was
I love this movie.
He's like, February is coming up and maybe we should do like a date movie. I have a limited range of date movies that I can tolerate, but I knew that John Paul liked the Magic Crab movie, and I consider this a witch movie. So this is like one of like the 5 date movies that I love. So I was like, well, let's do Simply Irresistible. And John Paul was like, Magic Crab movie.
That's right.
Almost exactly like that he did. So
yes, like this.
So then we were like, okay, who wants to do the Magic Crab movie with us? And Betsy was like, that'd be me. So here we are.
Magic and crabs, I'm in.
Awesome.
As they said, Simply Irresistible. I mean, you can't resist that combination. But it's kind of funny because like there's a lot of things about this movie that were horrible and in the classic like date movie trope. A lot of things that basically were so off the wall that you're like, I love this movie. One of the most off the wall things was the Magic Crab. I mean, like of all things to be doing the magic, a crab. Like,
why not?
Okay. Which is kind of like what the writer/director was like, yeah, we were just like crab. Maybe it was a good choice, but crab.
Sexual magic crab.
Yeah, just why not? But so the whole thing, it's centered around New York and the restaurant business basically. And you have Sarah Michelle Gellar, who her and her aunt basically had inherited a restaurant from her mom once her mom passed away. But Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, Amanda, is a not good cook. So basically they have no customers aside from like 3 loyal friends of the family that come, 2 who actually will order food and eat, and the other one who just sits there with the bag lunch that he brings in. And she is walking through the farmer's market one day, and this really, really, really weird character named Gene O'Reilly, who's played by, I think it's Christopher Durang, might be the
That's
wrong
correct.
person, who also shows up in random other movies as bizarre characters. It's like his thing.
He's the same character.
But
he's the same character.
Yeah, he shows up in the farmer's market. Is like, hey, these are for you. A big bushel of peaky-toed crabs. You know. Go ahead.
He says the line, "Take my crabs, Amanda."
That's right.
Your mother wants you.
And I laughed so hard. I was like,
yes.
All right.
And of course, the crabs. So Gene O'Reilly is somehow supposed to be associated with her dead mother. You never know how. Like, was he part of her coven? Was he an angel sent from heaven by her mother? We don't know.
Wait, is that news? That's new. I did not know this.
Know what? That
he was a part of the coven.
No, I'm making that up. You don't know.
Oh, okay. This is your headcanon. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
It's because you don't know. He never says like there's what the association comes from. And when you read like articles about like it from the writer and the director, they're like, we didn't want to explain everything. We were leaving it up to you to decide. So, was her mother a witch? Was this how this happened? Was she a witch? Like it's all like supposed to be up in the air and up to conjecture. So you have Gene O'Reilly, who just implies that he knows her mother, but you don't know how. You assume it's something, spectral because,
magical.
He implies, because he pops up from one end to the other of the farmer's market and appears
He
randomly.
stalks her.
Yeah, in cabs and, on dance floors conducting bands. It's just, which is one of the big criticisms the movie got, was that just people couldn't follow it because to them it was nonsensical. But I think it was supposed to be nonsensical. But meanwhile, he cons her into buying these crabs, but one escapes. And as she's crawling after it, she grabs Sean Patrick Flanery's leg. who's
But
playing Bill
before that,
Bartlett.
the crab does also bite Sean Patrick Flanery.
No, she grabs his leg first.
Does he? Okay.
She does.
She grabs
Okay.
his leg and he looks at her like, because she says, gotcha, and grabs his leg. And he has this horribly schmarmy smile on his face. Like, to be honest, his character's basically a tool.
Great. Can I go throw up now?
So, yeah, she grabs his leg, says, got you. He gets a smile like, uh-huh, you want me. You know, you want me. And she's like, I'm just trying to save you. And he's looking at her like she's insane. And then the crab bites his leg. And she's like, yeah, that's what I was trying to warn you about. But the whole point was apparently Gina Riley wanted her to meet this guy because he, I guess, just knew that that was the jackass for her. And meanwhile, you know, she gets back to her restaurant. Well, she talks to him about how the crab was going to be her lunch at her restaurant and she was going to make this incredible crab dish.
Crab
And uses lovely
Napoleon.
vocabulary.
Napoleon.
Yes.
I know a fair amount about fine food and drink.
And it was going to be quite insouciant. I love that she used the word insouciant. That was just like, yeah, she gets back to the restaurant. Well, at the farmer's market, somebody lets drop that the restaurant's going to close, which was news to her. She, you know, confronts her aunt, who's played by Betty Buckley, who's actually more known for Broadway. Like she was in like the original Cats and all that. And just an amazing actress though, too. And she just, I don't know. I loved her in this movie. She was just this gorgeous, like kind of goofy sort of the aunt you kind of want.
Maybe you wonder why she doesn't do more movies, honestly, but
Yeah. But yeah, so she confronts her aunt here. It's like, yeah, the landlord raised the rent to like $5,000 a month, and we can't do it, you know, because their 3 customers are just not enough to sustain that kind of money. And you know, so she's having a breakdown, and she tells, you know, her sous chef friend slash, you know, slash friend Nolan, and they're like already and settled with the fact they're going to close. Meanwhile, here comes Bill Bartlett with his sort of girlfriend. Now, between the 3 of us, was this confusing to you guys too? Like, he had 3 dates with the woman,
Mhm.
and they were apparently in a relationship.
I mean, sure. But it's played by Amanda Peet, who
Is
in
amazing.
the 90s, she always got the role of I'm a bitch, I'm a terrible person, I'm mean. And I'm thinking, I feel bad for her because she is such a great actress. And she was recently in that, I mean, yes, she played an evil person as well in that show, Dirty John with Christian Slater.
See, I
about
only
the-
remember her from Whole 9 Yards and Identity, and I wouldn't say she was a bitch in either of those.
Oh.
But I mean, that might have been my perception. I mean, she played the whore with the heart of gold personality
Yeah.
in Identity, and then in the Whole 9 Yards, she was the hit woman with a heart of gold, kind of. You know?
Yeah, I'm also thinking of her in like Saving John. No, what is Saving Silverman?
Oh yeah, yeah, she was a complete bitch in that one.
Yeah, and they made her like a crazy psycho, and I'm like, I like this actress. Why are they making her a crazy psycho?
But almost everybody in that film was some form of a crazy psycho. She was just the narcissist.
Oh, I agree.
She was the controlling narcissist in that. But in this, she
Yeah.
was just, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think she was anything besides, you know,
A waste of a character, honestly.
a reason to intro the relationship between the main 2 characters, really, I guess. But I mean, there's some great lines that came out of it.
it kind of showed that he is non-committal. It
Yeah.
did that really well.
Well, I mean, the whole, yeah. So he had this whole chart with like, so there's a whole pre-scene before he and Amanda Peet show up at Sarah Michelle's restaurant, where she shows up at his work, downloads her electronic schedule on top of his. Patricia Clarkson is in there. She's hilarious. She's like, there's a very thin woman who's making herself at home in your office. And of course, Sean Patrick Flanery's like, what's she's doing there? And Patricia Clarkson, I don't know, but I offered her a sandwich. And then, you know, they walk in and, you know, out comes Amanda Peet, and she states that she downloaded her schedule onto his, and Patricia Clarkson goes, I hope she used a condom. And this is like one of those lines that just had me like cracking up, and I just, you know, it also caused me just randomly to say that to people when they would, you know, pop in with some weird random thing, and I'd be like, oh, I hope you used a condom. So there's a lot of great lines that came out of this movie, in my opinion. But here we are, and then he goes into this lecture about the third date rule, where like everything's fun, but after the third date, then it gets weird, and people are trying to figure out if they're in a relationship or not. I'm like, okay, but why, one, is this girl after 3 dates downloading her schedule, and two, do you have to break up with someone after a third date, or you just say, this isn't working for me, we're not going to go on a fourth? I mean, are you in it? I don't.
Does he bet him after the
so.
first or second date, and then on the third he's like, he rates it and then goes, yeah, was it worth it? I mean, I'm just curious, because that's just a weird number.
It is. It's like like, is it really that fun on the third date? Is that like the climax of a relationship?
It's obviously the pinnacle.
I mean, it's rare that I've ever made it to a second date, so I really have no opinion. I find it kind of curious. I'm like, is this what normal people do? I don't know. But meanwhile, so he's wanting to break up with her anyway. Like, his whole plan was that he was going to go to lunch with her and break up with her because it's the third date and it's not going to get any better than that. And so they show up at the wrong restaurant because Gina O'Reilly is their cab driver, and he drops them off at Sarah's restaurant there instead of the restaurant they wanted to go to. And craziness then ensues. Just a whole bunch of wild things. Like, at that moment, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, Amanda, decides she really wants to make incredible food for this guy. She wants to make something so tasty that every bite is ecstasy, just to quote the movie. Meanwhile, though, she's mad because there's the girlfriend, which is just perfect. Hair is in place, skin is gorgeous, no flaws, perfect suit. They make a point of matching shoes. So she's in there. And this is the thing that I kind of thought was really funny and kind of disgusting about the movie. So she's supposed to be a cook. She has her hair down. She's like running her fingers through her hair. And I'm like, I would never. Like, her hair's not even tied back. There's no hair net. There's no chef's hat, nothing. To be fair, she does touch like the raw meat with like, I can't think of the word.
Tongs.
Thank you, tongs. But still, it's just like, maybe some sanitary precautions.
I mean, I put a bandana now on that my hair's gotten so long when I cook.
I mean, even though the bald sous chef had a bandana.
Yeah, I know. It just
She's there with like nothing, no gloves.
But then again, this is the height of Buffy. People came to see Buffy, I guess.
And Boondock Saints, which actually came out a month before, which I thought was funny because I thought there was a longer gap, but no.
but even then, Boondocks is more like a cult film for Sean Patrick Flanery. Like, it's not one of those like people were like, yay, when it first came out. When it first came out, people were like, what is this?
Well, when it first came out, nobody saw it. Nobody saw it until it came out on DVD like a year and a half later. So by then you did know Boondock Saints.
I did look it up though, and Cruel Intentions came out the same year as this movie.
Which is a lot better movie.
Yeah, and it's a definite starring vehicle for Sarah Michelle Gellar. So if you had just seen her in that, because we were talking about her hair color in this, and I'm like, oh, they just dyed it red over the brown that she had for Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, I assumed that they dyed it because I didn't really get into Cruel Intentions. I watched part of it, but to me, it was like the kid version of Dangerous Liaisons.
It is.
So,
it is. That was the point. Yeah.
So I'm like,
no, it literally is.
Nothing against it. I just liked the grown-up version better because I'm old. I'm gonna die soon. I'm just.
I'm a kid at heart, and I love silly teen melodramas and silly teen romantic comedies, which is why I love Magic Crab.
1999 was the year I graduated from high school. I was basically the same age as the kids from Cruel Intentions.
93, so I was a whopping 6 years older and way more mature.
96. I graduated in 96, so we're old.
So we run the count 93, 96, 99. So getting a wide range.
Hey, at least we don't have any 2010s here. You Gen Xers.
The one wonders what they would think of this show. They'd be like, I don't know what's wrong with you people. Why is this something you watched? But I'm sorry, we diverted it.
Yeah.
So there's the perfect girlfriend. There's Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's like killing an already dead piece of chicken with a
making
mallet.
it angry.
talking about how he can't possibly be happy with a perfect woman with perfect hair and perfect shoes and goddamn perfect matching shoes. And the crab who escaped from the bushel while the rest of his brethren got boiled and killed in front of it is on a shelf away. And as she's like yelling about this and smashing it, and as her friend Nolan, the sous chef, is like going, no, she's perfect. No, you can't fix yourself like that. Not a supportive friend at all, by the way, in that context. So she's like imbuing this chicken. So it's like kitchen witchery. This is why I liked it. I'm like, this is a kitchen witch. She's imbuing this food with her emotion, and then she's cooking the crab souffle, Napoleon souffle, sorry, with like ecstasy and happiness, and
which we have to acknowledge that Nolan, or that her sous chef referred to as crab napalm, which made me laugh really hard. I'm like, yes, crab napalm is exactly what she's serving him.
Because there was an explosion. Meanwhile, there's Betty Buckley, the aunt out there, who's like just walking around like, what brought you to the restaurant? And then they have this really cool like martini machine that I just was like, man, that is the coolest thing
What
ever.
is that? Rubik's Goldberg machine? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Rube Goldberg?
Rube Goldberg. That's, I think, what it reminded me of. And when I was rewatching it, I rewatched it with my wife. And I said, we totally need that. And she's like, that is so not necessary to make a martini. I go, yes, but it would be cool every time.
I hate martinis, but I'd like, could we adjust that for like a whiskey sour maybe? I mean,
For whatever, it would still be a lot of fun.
You can mix anything in that.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome too. So, I'm like a child. I'd be watching that and just, make chocolate milk with it. I don't care.
Ooh, there you go.
But yeah, so the aunt's there and she brings out the martini after she makes it. She's like, can I interest you in a martini? They're like, no. She's like, okay. Well,
And you wonder why this business is failing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's Amanda Pete's character going, so there's nobody here, and clearly not wanting to be in this restaurant at all. Like you could tell that she really didn't want to eat here. And she's only going along just, I don't know, because Patrick Flanery said, let's eat here. And this is my other favorite thing. I love movies with random, obscure Ohio references for no meaning. So she's sitting there talking about how there's nobody here and looking around the restaurant. And she's like, it's so Cleveland. Which I was like stuck in my brain forever because I was like, I've been to Cleveland. That's not where my brain went when I looked in the restaurant, but maybe I'm missing something. I mean, there's nothing about, I wouldn't go, it's so Cleveland or it's so Columbus or anything. Like, no, nothing about Ohio sprung to mind about the interior.
I mean,
New Orleans, maybe, because if you've been to NOLA, they have like small little cut in the wall restaurants. But I would not have thought of Ohio.
I mean, Necessary Roughness has a line from a commentator going, holy Columbus, Ohio.
There's so many random Ohio references in
Yeah.
movies that it entertains me. I used to keep a list for some strange reason because I just thought it was funny. It might be because so many like actors and actresses and playwrights and voiceovers and stuff come out of Ohio because they're escaping. So might be throwing it because of that. I just thought it was funny. But they bring the food out. Sarah Michelle, she hands the plate off. Amanda Pete. Well, first of all, Bill Bartlett, Patrick Flanery, takes a bite and he's like orgasming over the food. He's like, it's so good. You need to try this. Amanda Pete, whose character's name is Chris, takes a bite of her food, starts choking on it, and then spits out, you're so controlling, at the guy she's had 3 dates with. And then goes off to spew everything that Amanda had said, Amanda being Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, while making her chicken about, I'm perfect. What am I doing with you? I have perfect skin, perfect hair. Well, she's smearing her food on Patrick Flanery.
On his face.
All his face. She's wiping her out with his tie. She's having a complete meltdown. And it's just so odd. And, he's like, nobody's that perfect. And then she goes and like pulls up a ruffle. She doesn't even really pull up, and just looks down at supposedly at her breast. It's like, oh, I am. And personally, I love that confidence. Like, I love seeing a woman just be like, no, I am perfect. Even though she was clearly like fucked up, but still, it was lovely. She was just like, no, I'm perfect. Matching shoes, pointing at, she's like just running down it. It's just so weird. At one point, she's like, I have perfect skin. And there's somebody, he's like, yes, you do, actually.
Right? Like,
But then what I thought was the most inorganic moment of the movie, which I know they just did to push a plot point, she suddenly stops and sees that the plates don't match. Like, I don't know. In the middle of a rant, I just don't see the woman going, oh, look at these plates. They don't match. And she proceeds to throw them throughout the restaurant, at customers, at the bar, at the wall, and like, pretty much breaks up every plate in the restaurant. And then, says thank you and leaves. And the whole time, and this is really okay. So throughout this movie, you have to pretty much admit the fact that John Patrick Flanery's character is basically kind of a dick. Like,
And a terrible actor in it too.
Well, I mean,
My husband went,
just
is
be
he
yourself as
high?
a dick.
My husband was like, is he high? Not the character, Sean Patrick Flanery. Is he high the whole time? And I'm like,
I wonder, honestly. I mean, at a con I was at, he was very like hyper, like he was up on something, you know what I mean? Which,
I mean,
it could just be his personality. He could be anxious. I don't know, but
my wife said the same thing, and then she was just like, he's like, everybody else in this movie can act, and they're doing such a great job, and he's just like,
phoning
yeah.
it in.
Hey, what's the line? Oh,
just sort of
yeah,
being himself.
line.
I don't know. I mean, it was.
I mean, it kind of reminded me of Kristen Stewart from the Twilight movies.
Never watched them.
I've only watched them with the riff track, which every time she would go, the riff would go, line. Because she'd always be like, line.
What am I saying here? I don't know. Maybe he just found, like, I don't know, the lines just odd. I have no idea. But there's a couple parts where I thought the timing was good. Like he had the line and it played off. Mostly when he was with Patricia Clarkson.
I was going to say, I think it was with Patricia Clarkson because she is movie helper.
She's the best thing of this movie. Let's just get that out of the way.
When we
Dylan
watched
Baker, the two of them really.
First time, I went, why is she here? And then I was like, I'm so glad she's here.
To elevate this wonderful movie.
I mean, it's an entertaining movie, regardless, but it's just not a good movie. You know what I mean?
I mean, I can tell you, I learned a lot of people actually love this movie. Every time I posted something on it, the amount of people who would message me and go, oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite movies, or I secretly love that movie. I'm like, why do you secretly love it? Just because it's terrible? I mean, I love it because there's a magic crab, and all you have to do is even put on Google and just type in magic crab, and this is the only hit. That's what's so amazing. Like, if you could not,
this movie, we know.
Yeah, if you did not know how to spell anything except magic crab, this would come up.
First hit, Simply Irresistible.
I mean, it's fabulous.
So all the plates of the restaurant, with the exception, I believe, that they point out later, 4 get broken. And basically what happens is, Bill Bartlett says, hey, I'm sorry about this. The food is amazing, though. What's in it? Goes on and on. He's like, but I'll pay for the plates. And he hands his card, and he works at a department store, Bendel's department store, which I naively didn't realize was a real place until they opened up one at Flair Mall and closed. I'm like, oh shit, it's a real store.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and they actually, at night after the store closed down in New York, they filmed most of the scenes that are in Bendel's department store for real. So that's kind of funny too. So you actually get to see the store itself. So yeah, completely real place. But so of course the next day, she cooks these delectable eclairs that her sous chef was like, maybe you ought to start with your mom's sugar cookies and not these because you're really not that great a cook. But she pulls it off. Nolan comes upstairs, that's the sous chef's name, and this is the part that is funny. Like when you read articles about it, like everybody thought what he was doing with these dolls was creepy. Clearly he does not know men what they do with dolls. Like every dude I know, anytime he popped around like Barbie dolls, baby dolls, or whatever, they do weird shit with dolls. I don't know, maybe John Paul, you could speak to this. But basically Nolan comes upstairs, there's 2 little dolls sitting on a dresser, he picks them up and they're like, wrestling and making out. I
was gonna say he's making him make out, which I thought was hysterical because I'm like, that makes sense.
That's what
maybe it's a magical voodoo thing he has.
What I think is funny though is she says, "Don't touch the dolls," Which means every time he's in her room, he does this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But ironically, apparently though, he completely ad-libbed that scene. Like that was not in the script. He just picked up those dolls and did that himself. But like I said, if you've been around like dudes, like maybe if you grew up with guys, they just do weird shit with dolls. Like I guess they working on how to explain or express themselves. So
we didn't have dolls. I mean, we had action figures, so we had to kind of move them in like, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think.
I mean, that's probably why they use dolls for therapies for boys, right? You know, show me on the doll. But the whole conversation
Somewhere
starts
around
with
this area.
she's trying to figure out what to wear uptown, you know, and this is what I kind of love because this is kind of like when you have friends, you'll do this stuff, you know, like what do I wear? What is this? You know how I'm gonna be? What do guys talk about? What do I do? And so he's like, yeah, we really just think about sex. That's all I care about. And like, she's like, that can't be true. She's like, no, I watched it on Dateline. He's like, you think about it 238 times a day. Which allegedly, according to the writer, the director, that was from an actual like report, but no one's been able to find the source of it. But they said they pulled that as an actual thing, not some made up number. But the part where he says, and when they do think about it, they're playing with their belts. That was made up. But to me, this actually seems like some shit that might be true if somebody ever does a study. Just have to see.
I play with my. I just stroke my goatee.
Just, yes.
Yes.
Or you play with people's dolls. Not just
Right. So now watch everybody from this point forward, or actually they're going to go to all of our old videos and be like, how many times does John Paul play with his beard?
So
yeah.
She picks a dress that causes Nolan to adjust his belt, so she knows it must be a sexy dress. Goes on uptown to Bendel's thinking, well, if he's going to buy plates, I'm going to go, because she's totally hot for Sean Patrick Flanery's character. And so she's like, yeah, so I'm going to go do this thing. And she shows up and, of course, causes a disaster because it's a date movie. So she has to do something klutzy because what else do women do? We just fall into people's arms. We trip over our shoes. I'm not saying we're not klutzy. I'm klutzy.
So clumsy, these women. You can't send them to a store.
No.
I mean, this does have every kind of like romantic comedy trope. And I guess maybe that's why I enjoy. When I rewatched this with my wife, she just like looks at me and she's like, "What is it about this that you like?" I go, "I don't know, but I do. I enjoy it. I had a grin on my face watching this. I really enjoyed it. Magic Crab, exactly. I just there's something about this movie. It's magical.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like me, it was all because it was a witch movie, and I like seeing women with power, and I like where stripped away from the trope, you know.
Yeah.
So she's at the store. She knocks everything over. He comes down to his sister. She's like, "Hey, you got plates here, right?" He's like, first gonna just send her on his way. But then, of course, he sees her standing by the elevator, and decides she's pretty. So he follows her up. They pick their plates. He decides, that he's about to miss a meeting. And of course, during their walk around the store, which she feared would happen, happens. And this is pretty much, anytime somebody sticks a thought in your brain, like men think about sex 238 times a day, and then they adjust their belt when thinking about it, comes up. So he comments on her plate choices, and that leads to him commenting on her outfit choice, which I thought was a cute choice of outfit personally. But I have a love-hate with the fashion in this movie. But
so you like orange with orange type hair?
It was pink, but okay.
Was it pink?
She wears almost exclusively pink and gold.
I know. I thought during the store scene it was an orange type.
It looked pink to me, but maybe
I thought it was pink.
Well,
so honestly, the dress she was wearing when she was trying to pick out the dress to wear, that was my aesthetic.
No, I'm sorry. The coat she has is like an orange. You're right. The dress was pink.
Yeah, I thought the coat was kind of pink too, but okay.
It is like a salmony.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of an orangey pink. I can see that. So
okay.
But anyway.
Anyways,
I was like, no, it was orange with red hair.
I know fashion. I know high fashion.
You probably
I'm wearing a Queen t-shirt.
I don't. So I do have Betsy's face on my boob. So there's that.
And I have a crab and other beautiful animals on my shirt. So
but
Yeah.
I'm a fashion disaster in general, but I'm kind of proud of that fact. But anyway.
Me too.
So he comments on her clothes, and this is all to lead to the fact that then she says, well, you seem like it's easy for you to pick out an outfit because he's, wearing a blue suit. And he makes a comment about like, yeah, I seem to pop out of the shower fully dressed in a blue suit. And she then goes, and a belt, because of course she's still thinking about 238 times a day and they adjust their belt. And he goes, I don't wear a belt. And she's like, oh, shit. Like, she's like,
which I call shenanigans because I'm sorry. Every guy wears a belt.
He wears suspenders, John Paul. He's different.
Also, to quote Letterkenny, Wayne says he doesn't need to wear a belt because he buys pants that fit.
Which men can do.
I mean,
doesn't work that easily.
Some.
I know. I'm a weird shape. I can't find the right waist that matches the length, so I have to either go up or down a size. Most of the time it's up, so I have to wear a belt.
We feel you, John Paul. We're
it happens.
They don't really make pants that fit shapes. Other than this, if you're this shape, you can probably find pants. But so then of course she's like, why are you asking about a belt? So then she blurts out the whole 238 times a day and they adjust their belt while he's playing with his suspenders. And then he like, no, that's not possible. And he does the math and he's like, oh, actually, that's about right. That's we think about sex about every
4 minutes. It's every 4 minutes. I remember that one because I was like,
of course she counters with, but one good sexual thought takes at least 20 minutes. Really though, I'd argue with her because it doesn't really take 20 minutes. Depending on how well honed your mind is, you could have a good sexual thought. It's like 5 minutes, Yeah. Now, one good sexual act should take at least a half hour.
No, writing the notes down.
Different.
Right. But a thought, the speed of thought's totally different.
Yeah. That's a moment. You can.
Yeah.
So sexual act, at least a 30-minute show. I'm going to remember this.
And
the more you
never
know.
have just one sexual act like that.
Oh,
there should be, it's like a play, act 1, act 2, act 3. So like act 1 should at least be 30 minutes before you go into act 2.
I mean, the more I know, I'm learning so much right now.
Tell Kate she can thank you later.
Yeah. Kate's going to be a happy woman tonight.
And then she'd be like, okay, you can watch Simply Irresistible again if you.
There you go. The movie's an hour and a half long, so I mean that's what?
3 acts.
3 acts. There we go. Got a full thing.
Yeah. So of course though they go to this restaurant and in the elevator when he's trying to like gentlemanly help her exit the shop, she pulls out the caramel eclairs that she made and offers them to him. And she says one of my favorite lines that she's like, that dessert is her favorite part of the meal. It's basically the whole point of the meal. And I'm like, yes, it is. Dessert is the point of the meal. And he takes a bite and of course kitchen witchery ensues. And he's now like hallucinating, orgasmic, horny, ready to go. Shoves some in her mouth, which was like kind of weird, but vaguely uncomfortable there. Here, take a bite. So now she's hallucinating too. Instead of going down to the exit, they go up to the restaurant that's being built, which is a really cool looking restaurant, in my opinion. A little creepy because of all the mirrors, but I love that floor. And it was like, basically they set it up as like as a stage for a musical because they're really trying to make this upscale, crazy restaurant. And they hallucinate a band and they hallucinate that they're dancing. And of course, his big boss comes in with their investors and they're both standing there. Like that's what's actually happening is they're standing there and he's like got his hand to her face, I believe. But in their minds, they're dancing around to, full orchestra. And his boss is like, what are you doing? Are you interviewing waitresses? What's happening? So they come out of it and he's like, yeah, just 1 minute, which I'm like, the hell kind of relationship you have with your boss that you could just be like, hold on a sec.
1 moment.
When you're not on clearly a work call, you know what I mean? Like I just can't see that ever happening without some severe repercussions. But at any rate, he's like 1 minute, and she's like, yeah, so I'll walk myself out, but this was fun, right? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, so it'll be fun if we do it again, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll call you. And you can even tell by the way he says it that he's not going to call her. Like it's real evident, even though you could tell that he really had a good time.
But this was date number 2, essentially. So
no. Technically, it'd be date number 1. I don't think that the farmer's market or the restaurant counted because he was 1 in a group of people at the farmer's market and 2 on another date at the restaurant.
So it does not count if you're on another date.
Yeah, I'm not even in his mind. I think could that?
I mean, I have a brother who could probably prove that theory wrong. But just saying.
But I'll bet you the girl he was with, or the girls he was with, would be like, nope.
Probably. But I'm just
really
saying.
Now, was he on a date with both of them, or was he on a date with one setting up a date with another one?
I did not say what you're thinking.
Because there's a difference.
Yeah.
If you were dating 2 people at once and it wasn't a consensual polyamory kind of situation, one I'd probably be like a Mrs. Doubtfire situation where you're running back and forth from table to table.
Hello. Or
But
80s TV show tropes where the guy goes back and forth and dates 2 people. And then they end up at the same prom. Oh no!
No, and it's almost always a guy. You really don't see where women do that, but
No, that's true. That's true.
so
We're all pieces of shit. It's all right.
But they just don't make movies out of it for some reason. Anyway, so she goes off, and of course he doesn't call. He doesn't call. And Nolan gets tired of her going, he's not going to call. So Nolan makes the phone ring. He picks it up, dials the guy's number right at the time where Bill and Patricia, Sean Patrick Flanery and Patricia Clarkson are discussing this girl. So he's like, yeah, I had this, it was really weird and great food and going on with Patricia Clarkson. She's like, yeah, you got to be careful, man. You really can't be falling in love right now. And he's like, oh, I'm not falling in love. She's like, really, what's her name? And all of a sudden, of course, the call comes through and it's like, it's Amanda Shelton on line 1. He's like, you can see him visibly freak out. And he plays that game. She asks him to dinner. He's like, well, I don't know. I might be pretty busy. So I don't know if I'm going to make it. Can't just say yes or no. Just has to play with the poor girl's anxiety. And then we get like the next trope. So she's busy as hell. They have a great night on the restaurant because her cooking powers of magic, which we with the magic crab, have now come to fruition. And the restaurant is just filled with people. Like they've all heard the news and they're all coming eating the delicious food. And there's a whole scene where like one of the customers come up and is like, my compliments to the chef. In fact, I want to do the whole thing over again backwards, and then proceeds to order the foods backwards.
Where then I'm sorry, the sous chef fat shames the guy.
He does.
There was a totally unnecessary fat joke at that moment. I'm like,
yeah, I took offense to that, being a fat guy myself. I mean,
especially because that guy wasn't that fat.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, to back you out of here. But I mean, again, you're looking at date movie tropes. Fat people are always going to get picked on. If you got a fat person in it, if they're going to be a romantic lead, they lose weight.
But I want to be jolly.
But we all know this. We all are not thin people. This is the fat people club. We're happy with it. But yeah. No, but yeah. So of course you got your trope where you got to pick on that person. And plus, like it's just one of those things with that movie where you're like, so close, but now we got a fat shame. But yeah, so he of course decides to show up. Well, actually, so they finished at the restaurant for the day, and there's Nolan and Amanda talking, and Nolan's like, let's go out and dance. And of course she's like saying, I'm gonna be tired, but Nolan knows. Nolan's a dude. He's like, you're gonna wait for this guy. She's like, no, I'm not. He's like, Amanda, he's not coming. And she's like, I'm not waiting. But of course she waits. And just when she gives up waiting, we're assuming it's like 2 a.m. at this point, maybe 1 or 2 a.m, he shows up at her door with a not vanilla orchid that's supposed to be a vanilla orchid.
Hey, people like me thought it was a vanilla orchid. I don't know what a vanilla orchid looks like.
It's yellow.
I didn't think there was a thing called a vanilla orchid, so that's okay. I thought they made it up.
I knew there was. I don't really know how much vanilla is in the flowers for a vanilla orchid, but I had run across vanilla orchids in my life.
I mean, I do love orchids, and they are very pretty. But I mean, I thought, sure, it's Vanilla Orchid.
So of course, she lies and says that, she was there the whole time working and the last table took forever. He lies completely and pretends that he still had that meeting and the meeting went on and on when he had no meeting. But then it's like, hey, can I walk you home? And of course, she lives above the restaurant. So really why she was even coming outside, because there's an inside entrance to her house, I don't know. But whatever, it's just how it worked. And he walks her 3 feet and she's like, well, okay. And he's like, what? I guess we pretend we have dinner and it was great and all. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, but do we have dessert? Can we have dessert? You know, a place that's open. I'd really love dessert. So now after making her wait all this time and being a dick, knowing what's going to happen, she unlocks the restaurant to cook dessert for him. Like, this
I
is
can't
the shit that
defend the
drove me
guy
nuts.
here.
I'm like, I'd be like, look, motherfucker, it's 2 a.m. Sorry your meeting ran over. How about tomorrow? But instead we have the fog. Which apparently was supposed to be the actual name of the movie, was Vanilla Fog instead of Simply Irresistible. But
I saw that.
Magic Crab is what you should have called it.
I agree, but I think it probably would have had an even worse response as Magic Crab than it did as Simply Irresistible. Like, critics.
Sarah Michelle
fucking hate
Gellar
this
would
movie.
have drawn in people to come see Magic Crab.
No, she couldn't even draw in people to see Simply Irresistible.
Fair
Like,
enough.
nobody saw this movie at the theater. It's just us freaks later that followed it, But yeah, so she starts cooking. She starts throwing the vanilla orchids and this cream, and this vanilla fog comes, and then they get all happy and horny for each other. And I think it's cool. They basically screw on the kitchen floor in a thing of vanilla fog. And
Don't forget, though, Magic Crab does
well,
go.
of course. It's all
Like,
Magic
he's
Crab.
like, I'm going to make it happen.
He's very
Broop.
sympathetic, that Magic Crab, with his cooking.
He's like, girl needs some. We're going to get girl some.
What I took out of that was, please never lick my face.
I mean, some of the worst slurping sounds you will ever hear in a movie that is not a porn happen in that scene.
He licked her face. And then they started to kiss, but first he licked her face. And I was just like, no, I'm out of the mood now.
I mean, it
what
wasn't
was he?
Terminator 2 lick face that happened to Linda Hamilton, but it was a little
Different.
Well, he does first, lick his lip or his thumb and goes,
rub it on her, and yeah.
I mean, it's, again, this is a PG-13 movie. So it's like, what? But see, he also, if I remember right, he leaves a thumb mark from flour, and I'm like, he didn't
There's
cook.
no flour.
There's no flour.
There was no flour. There's no powdered sugar. There was nothing.
Yeah, unless I hate
Fog
to say it,
itself.
unless it's cum, and he blew
Powdered
his load
cum.
early. He blew his load earlier and just went like that all over her face. I don't know.
It's
It was
cocaine and
weird.
explains a whole lot about this movie.
Okay, it was cocaine. I will buy that. He's in
It
this
explains
suit.
a whole lot. Also, you were talking about her not tying her hair back when cooking. Can we just talk about having sex in your kitchen? Like,
Let's
And on
hope
the
they scrub
floor.
down with bleach after. I mean, but let's be honest. If you've ever met anybody who's worked at any restaurant,
oh, it's gross.
sex in all the
Yeah,
kitchens,
that is true.
in the walk-in freezers, on the counters, just know that you're probably swallowing some shit you don't want to. And let me also tell you that most of the people that work in the kitchen, if they don't like you, or if they are just having a day, you probably eaten something you don't want to think about anyway.
That's why I cook at home.
Just accept that as fact. I've known entirely too many people that work in kitchens. I apologize, but
Oh, I'm with you on that.
yeah. Watch Fight
So let's
Club,
get back
that
on track.
explains
So
it.
what
Sorry.
happens next, Jenny?
Okay,
What happens
so
next?
they have their moment, and they go on their separate ways, and he's all enamored with vanilla orchids after that, and kind of not in the game anymore when it comes to work, and and it's kind of bad because it's sort of a crucial time and moment about it. And so this is when we find out that their chef for the restaurant that's opening at Bendel's, a really expensive, amazing restaurant, is mad because his knives have not come in from Air France. And he kind of blows it off to his little poor assistant man. He's like, just get him some knives, get him any knives. And the assistant's like, he wants his knives. And John Patrick Flanery's character's just not here, and he's like, no, let's just get him some knives. Nobody quits over knives. I'm like, have you met some chefs? I mean, I know people who aren't chefs that would be like, I'm not cooking because my knives broke. You know what I mean? People get stupid
I'll
loyal
tell
to
you
their
this.
knives.
I'll tell you this. Until COVID, when I officially learned to really cook, for my birthday last year, my wife's like, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want a set of really good knives." And she got them for me, and I love them because it's just so amazing when you have an amazing knife that just
No, I
does
agree.
everything. It's
I agree.
crazy.
After my two roommates left, especially the one, because it's just, they were fine people, but they tended to not take care of stuff. So I bought myself a nice knife set because I knew that I would take care of it. And it's joy. It is just knives that cut are really lovely. You
Yeah,
never
it's
know when you
ridiculously
need the
how
outfit.
amazing it is.
So yes, I appreciate Belderant's dilemma, but not that chef's a good person anyway. But I
But
appreciate
anyway,
it. You're like, no, my knives. I want my knives. But Sean Patrick Flanery does not take heed of this. He's just like, no, whatever. Just get him some knives. It'll be fine. And yeah, it doesn't quite work out that way. But meanwhile, he's just, off in his own daydream world because he's fallen in love after a date and a half.
let's say two.
Well, I mean, we
Let's
could say it too. We could say the store was a date, and then the
let's say two.
Vanilla Fog was a date. So we'll call that 2 dates, even though they weren't designed as
I
dates.
mean, he slept with her after the second date.
Yeah.
So
During the second date, it wasn't after.
Yeah. You're right.
Although she describes it as we made out really heavily.
They fucked, they.
Which I was like, girl, just be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
You
it's a
got all that.
PG-13 movie. Let's be honest. Had this movie been rated R, they
Even
would have
in a
at least
PG-13
said
movie, you're allowed to say we had sex. Like,
I mean, it wasn't Disney.
like,
Well, retroactively, it is a Disney movie now because it's a Fox film.
Well, there we
Just
go.
saying.
Well, then that makes the bibbity bobbity boo thing even more appropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, meanwhile, he's like just not into it, like work. He's not paying attention like he should. His boss walks in, he's fucking around with paper planes, which is a weird obsession he has, wanting to break Howard Hughes' record. Which another funny thing is, like, when he talks about Howard Hughes, Patricia Clarkson's character, like, isn't that guy who never like changed out of his pajamas? And Sean Patrick Flanery's character goes, no, that's Hugh Hefner. No, it was Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was known
Howard
for
Hughes.
going around in his pajamas.
it absolutely was Howard Hughes, yes.
And one wonders, was it supposed to be that the writers didn't know, or was it supposed to be that Sean Patrick Flanery's character just didn't know? And he was like, what do you mean? He just knew about the airplane, I guess. I don't know. But it was just kind of a funny side thing where you're like, what is happening? Meanwhile, earlier in the movie, we have discovered that Patricia Clarkson has a thing for Dylan Baker's character, who is the boss. He's Jonathan Bendel, the heir to the Bendel legacy, who's having issues because his grandfather, Henri Bendel, who did the department store, he just felt like he never lived up to that image. But Patricia Clarkson's character this whole time has been trying to get him to notice her in a non-work way. And has not done so well. Like her one breakthrough moment where she was going for his immortality, he's like, I like you. You think with your nuts. She was like, okay, thanks. Which also falls to another trope. So she comes up with a powerful, interesting thing to explain why he wants to do this restaurant. And of course, she must think like a man. What else? I mean, us girl thoughts are just like, what's fashion? But
I like dresses.
my hair look okay this color. But meanwhile, he realizes that he's losing it. Oh, so go ahead.
I will say, let's get to what is the most explicit scene in this movie for being PG-13.
The Carmel Leclerc's with the boss.
That's right, because it's right after that.
That's
Sean
where I was
Patrick
going, yeah.
Flanery does not give a shit about anything.
Right, and then he's in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah,
and smells the eclairs.
Right, and he sees the lone couple who are at the restaurant all the time.
Who mentioned Amanda?
Yeah, and he's just like eclairs, and he becomes like I think Scooby-Doo when you mentioned Scooby snacks.
Smells them out.
I
And
mean,
he's like, do you have food? And they're like, yes, we do. I have to confiscate that. New policy, no outside food due to the rats. Doesn't even say anything smart like due to the restaurant opening.
due to the rats. That's right. I want to go to a department store where there are rats.
And, a hugely expensive restaurant that's going to open up there in a department store with a rat problem.
Problem.
That's just good marketing there, let me tell you.
The only good rat is Rizzo the rat.
Maybe that's the chef. No, I'm kidding. But so he scones with the little bit of a clear that's left, runs upstairs. Meanwhile, Patricia Clarkson smells it. And she's like, walks in. He goes into his closet in his office, which I'm sure executives have. I don't know.
Why not?
Probably.
Back in the 90s, especially, right? I mean, this seems real to me. In my world, executive offices do not have anything, but you see the movies, there's executive bathrooms, and so I believe he could have a suite. This makes sense to me.
Yeah, okay.
He goes into the closet, I don't know, to get like an overshirt or a bib, who knows. I mean, whatever. Comes out, but by this time Patricia Clarkson has grabbed the box, shoved the one piece into her mouth, and starts orgasming herself. I mean, and she does a lovely job. She's like,
and I was just saying,
oh my god, this is good.
she does Meg Ryan level of orgasm. Like,
almost better, because she was more subtle about it. Like, she's not like,
I was gonna say,
she's just like, oh yes.
but what cracks me up is I'm watching this with my wife, and she's like, so they don't mention sex, but this girl just can orgasm right now after eating an eclair, and I go, magic crap. That's all you have to say. That's the answer. Because holy cow. I mean, and I feel that scene also goes a little too long.
At some point, then they're both collapse on the couch, even though he has not eaten this eclair. He's just having the memory of it. In come like the investors that he was meeting with. They're like, what are you doing? And he's like, sorry, but during this coming down, post-climatic, moment, Patricia Clarkson's like, you're succumbing. He's like, oh no, I'm not. And she's like, oh yeah, you are. And he's like, it's witchcraft or whatever. I'm going to break up with her. And she's like, do it over the phone. You can't deal with this right now. He's like, no, I'm going to go down there. She's like, don't risk it. He's like, no, I'm going to go down there. Next thing you know, he shows up at Amanda's restaurant, which is busy as hell. She's cooking. There's like people in and out trying to get the food together. He's like, you got a moment? And I was so glad that she was like, not right now, but if you want to wait a bit.
That's right. I'm busy.
Like, if she had stopped everything to talk to him, I'd be like, I'm not watching this movie anymore.
Yeah, I do appreciate that she was like, no, can you? No, I don't have a moment. Look at this.
And
Roll
I
your
also
sleeves up
appreciate
and
that he
help.
was not a dick about it. He was like, okay, she's busy. I'll wait. And even helps out, like, but it gets done. And after like being around her and in the restaurant, at first he's fine now. Like, you can tell, like, he's eating, he's got a glass of wine. They notice the crab is still up there and he keeps talking about wanting to eat the crab. It wasn't a metaphor, even he wanted to eat the magic crab. And she's like, dessert, and of course she starts to cook again, and she's like peeling a peach, and the peach skin is just like floating in the air. He's like, no, it's just an aerodynamic thing. And she's talking about how she's scared of how things are going, like they're just strange and magical and powerful. And he's like, no, you just suddenly became a good chef because you worked at it, and finally you got it. Just like riding a bike, is basically learning to ride a bike. You keep falling, the next thing you go for miles, what he says. Until he starts kissing her and he says, I love kissing you. And she replies back with, I love you. Now, during this point, they're floating up in the air towards the ceiling because the crab has elevated them up into the air. And as soon as she says,
magic crab,
he freaks. Totally freaks. Like, he can't, he's like now stuck on the ceiling, feeling trapped, freaking out, losing his mind. And, she notices him freaking, and it makes her come down. And the crab helps her down gently. And he's like, get me off here, get off here. And she's like, I didn't do this. He's like, don't you think you're a little responsible? She's like, we just had this conversation. We just said I'm a good chef. I don't know what she's, you know what I mean? But now she's responsible. And he's like yelling at her. And she's like, oh, fine. The magic words, bibbity bobbity boo. And of course he falls and hits the ground, which I found amazing at that point. And then he proceeds, basically to call her a witch and saying that he's losing his free will and he doesn't get to make any decisions, and typical stuff where you're like, we're obviously in a Hallmark movie now, you know. I'm threatened. I'm going to run away, you know. He's like, this is my destiny we're talking about. And she's like, you know, well, man's character is his destiny, so you're in for a rocky ride. And he's like, are you cursing me? And she's like, well, in your case, you know. He runs back, and then like he's totally free. Like he's like shutting his doors and windows in his office and basically hiding in there and not doing anything. And Patricia Clarkson's like, what is wrong with you? It's hot in here. I'm opening a window. He's like, can't. If you do, she might get in. Like just weird shit. Like he's totally lost it. Like nonsensically lost it. And of course, like Patricia Clarkson's like, nope, you're just in love. That old black magic, you know? And he's like, no, she's a witch. She's a witch.
She says one line that made me laugh so hard. It was, she's a wise witch to cast spells in Proverbs.
He even goes, yeah, because preceding that, he goes, in this creepy little voice, she said, a man's character is his destiny. And that's when Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah. And I was like, Patricia Clarkson, you're a gift.
Yeah, and I also loved how he was like creepy little voice. It was her normal voice, you know, like she wasn't like, I'll curse you. There was nothing creepy about it. She was obviously impassioned because he totally turned into a dick in the middle of them, like, you know, kissing and stuff. But yeah. So the restaurant's opening. Things are going to hell. He's having this conversation with his assistant, I guess. Oh, wait, we skipped this. Prior to that, my bad. You guys should have interrupted me. So after Patricia Clarkson had that bite of the orgasmic eclair, she ordered a whole box, trapped her boss in the elevator, had him eat one, even though he was trying to say no at first. So there was kind of a consent issue there, but he finally succumbs and bites it. And they like basically screw in the elevator. And then they have a relationship from that point on. Like,
wait, it's implied. It's implied. I just thought they went up and down the elevator. There wasn't sex.
They did go up and down. Up and down and up and down. And
at the very least, they made out because when he got out of that elevator, he was wearing her red lipstick.
Yeah,
that's right.
And she was adjusting her bra. I mean, you know, that was clear sign that there was, yeah, she was So yeah, things had happened.
And when they focused away from them, she had like mounted him like a pole.
Yes. I mean, that was like the non-typical shit that I loved because here she was, she wanted it. He actually wanted it. The girl was like, I will ride this. I will climb you and slide down you like a stripper pole. She was just good and happy about it.
The elevator's broken today.
She walks out of the elevator, runs into Sean Patrick Flanery's character and just like tosses the box of the empty clear box over her shoulder. And I was like, yep, got mine. Happy, satisfied.
Magic grab.
So I'm sorry I skipped that. It's very important because Amanda shows up in his office as Patricia Clarkson's like mocking him for falling in love and not accepting that that's actually what happened. And there was this whole scene before that though where Nolan is telling her, like, she's trying to explain to her sous chef friend what happened. And he's like, well, he's just scared, you know, because that's apparently how men are when they fall in love, according to this movie. They just get terrified and act like pricks. And he's like, and she's like, so do I give up on him? And of course, this is where it gets typical again. He's like, he throws it back on her. No, you don't just give up on him. You have to show him that being in love is as fun as falling in love. So it falls back on her, of course. You're the woman. You got to show him.
Do the emotional heavy lifting, please.
Because apparently in the 90s, if you're a dude, I'm sorry, man, this is not my opinion. This is apparently the opinion of every rom-com that ever existed. You guys are incapable of doing this. So,
of course, this man also, his whole personality in this movie is that he really likes paper airplanes and makes graph charts. So,
you know, and
why not?
Ideas about expensive restaurants,
right?
Hollywood musical floors. I don't know. It was just very, yeah. So she shows up there because his wallet fell out at the time when they were up in the air to return it to him. And she has this great, like, this is one of the things that I really loved. She shows up, he's freaking out. She's, you know, he's like, how'd you get in here? She's like, the door. And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, look, I feel great. You know, I've never felt this way before in my life. You know, things are coming together for me. I feel special. You know, my life was really ordinary and boring before I met you. And I don't know if it's you. I don't know if I need you to feel this way.
Would you say it's simply irresistible?
But no, she didn't say that there. But you know, she's like, I don't know if I need you to feel this way. And I like feeling this way, but whether or not I need you, I want you. And that's why I'm here, you know? And she's like, your life was probably extraordinary before this, but mine was not. And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, what do you feel? And he just is still babbling. And all of a sudden in comes the chef for his restaurant, pissed off about these fucking knives that they just handed him. He's like whipping them at the wall and like stabbing them into the model of the restaurant and spitting all over the place. Like, I spit on your restaurant. I spit on this. And then Sean Patrick Flanery's like, he goes to spit on Sean Patrick Flanery, who then just spits on himself, goes, look, are we good? And the chef's like, yeah, no, but that was the only smart thing you've done this whole time. And he's like, I quit. And before he goes, I fire you. And he storms out and he runs into Jonathan Bendel, the big boss, spits on him and is gone. And in comes Jonathan like, what the fuck are we gonna do? We open up, tonight or tomorrow night. I forgot what it was. And he's like, and we have no chef. And of course, Patricia Clarkson steps in then and saves the day and goes, this is the woman who made the eclairs. And he's like, the eclairs? you divine creature. And of course, Sean Patrick Flanery's like, no, she can't do this. I don't want her. She's a witch. She's evil. She's demon. He's like, no, I'm a magical chef. Because she has decided that she's going to show her love for him by saving his restaurant. Because, again, what else are we going to do? So he's fighting against it avidly. She's fighting for it avidly. Jonathan's like, shut up, you're an idiot. Yes, we're going to do this. Goes and sends Patricia Clarkson and Amanda on their way. But first, looks at Patricia Clarkson character is like, hey, when I'm done with this, can you like meet me in my office later? And Patricia Clarkson's like, sure, you're the boss. And he goes, no, you be the boss this time. So it's very clear what kind of relationship they have now. And it's awesome. It just, yeah. They could have made this movie about
a second act? Is this a second act for them?
For Patricia Clarkson and Dylan Baker, it's probably more than the second if they've already established that they've been trading off who's boss. I mean, they have clearly integrated fantasies into this already. So I would say it's more than just once or twice. Or they hit a comfort level really quickly, which could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so shoot ahead. She closes down her restaurant for the weekend to go cook at his restaurant. Starts freaking out because for some reason she's associated her cooking skills with earrings she found of her mother's and not the weird ass crab that she thought to bring with her anyway. And she's in this restaurant. She runs into this really shitty sous chef of the other chef that had left. And he's like, I can carry on in this manner. And she's like, well, they asked me to cook, so.
So fuck you.
It turned out like the big menu item was supposed to be truffle slippers, but the other chef took the truffles with him. And then there's another disgusting scene. So although they've already been cooking for probably hours, suddenly she realizes she doesn't have the ingredients she needs. And suddenly after this moment, she realizes she needs to redo the menu. But prior to that, this shitty sous chef basically says that she's a worthless cook. So she starts to cry and like cries into the food. And like a sniffling, tears are dropping. We hope it's just tears. I'm like,
again, no hairnet.
This is why we have COVID, people. It's not funny, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean? It's just like, not good. But her tears apparently imbue it with happy, yummy, joyful sadness, I guess. Like mourning.
It's a happy cry.
Yeah. So she's like, we got to change the menu, which I don't know what they were doing for hours and hours before that, but apparently they did a quick shift. The food starts to come out. This whole time, though, Jonathan and Bill Bartlett, Sean Patrick Flanery's character, haven't told anybody about the change in chefs. So I'm like, this is a big fraud thing right here anyway. And you're not even crediting the woman with her cooking, regardless. But okay, you're going to tell all these commentators and, and be like, hey, yeah, this is Belderon, and not like this would be problematic. This would be like a marketing nightmare in the real world. You know what I mean? Like it would come out that it wasn't him and it's just bad. But at any rate, they all sit down to eat. They start having emotive responses to the food. The first of which is just breakdown in huge tears. And the next meal, I believe is the next meal, they just get really quiet and trance.
Yeah.
And then that's when Betty Buckley shows up. And this is funny because in this scene, like there are some amazing dresses in the scene. Like Patricia Clarkson's like gray velvet dress is absolutely gorgeous.
God.
Some of the other dresses that the customers are wearing is gorgeous. And there's poor Betty Buckley in this dress that I would personally have liked in the 90s. It was like black with sheer panels and stuff. But she looks so horribly uncomfortable in it that I'm like, why did they make this woman wear this dress?
It looks like she's wearing a Norma Desmond costume from Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. Yes. And she
maybe she brought it for herself.
I don't think so, because she looked super uncomfortable in it. That was the problem. It wasn't really that the dress was bad. It was she looked horribly uncomfortable in it. Like, it took away from the scene. She seemed so horribly uncomfortable. She's shifting it around. She's trying to get this weird boa that I'm pretty sure she asked for because she was so uncomfortable in the dress. It's just disastrous. And it really just, I mean, it sounds like a stupid thing to talk about, but if you watch the movie, tell me I'm wrong. It takes away from it. She just is obviously trying to act the best she can in something that is not comfortable for her on any level. She's just like totally struggling with it. But she comes into it and she's like, Amanda and Nolan start freaking out, thinking they're gonna, like, you know, be thrown tarred and feathered and removed from all of New York and have to, like, you know, emigrate to a different country after the disaster that's happening because people are crying in their food. And, you know, and of course Betty Buck,
she doesn't know that they're attributing it all to the French guy. So
yeah, so she thinks she's getting credit for the dinner she's making, but she isn't anyway, so whatever. And of course, the nasty ass sous chef is like, are you going to be leaving now that you fucked up so badly? Basically, is what he's implying. They go out after, like, they're in the trance and they see that these people are in trance. And then she realizes, oh, okay, well, I guess this is no worse than what I do normally. And then goes and proceeds to, like, you know, make the orgasmic vanilla fog as, like, the end course. And she keeps hoping this whole time that Sean Patrick Flanery will come in and, like, you know, thank her for the amazing work she's done and then follow up on her with, you know, I love you, I love you. And he doesn't. So she finishes the dessert and she just goes to leave. And then you have this whole long scene where apparently they don't run into each other on these stairs, which I logistically cannot figure out. Like, how do they not run? Is there another staircase I'm missing?
It's MC Escher kind of stairs.
It must be. And also, if you notice, like, where the cab is and everything from the view, it doesn't make sense. Like,
it's
really,
movie magic.
Why is the cab over there in the building there? Which is there another door that wraps around that? I don't know.
Crab magic.
It must have been.
Explain it.
You
can't explain the magic crab.
I don't know. I think it was just poor direction, but my opinion on that one. But of course, though, Sean Patrick Flanery feels the blow of wind and sees the paper airplanes, you know, move in his office and has this whole montage of remembering how much he's enjoyed being with this girl, and, like, comes to and is like, shit, oh no, my only opportunity to ever see her again, I guess. It, like, runs into, you know, this.
I mean, he still has to pay her.
Yeah, I know. You know, plus, what are you going to do for your chef after this?
I'm just saying, he still has to pay her.
But he misses her. She gets in the cab. He looks out the window. There she is in the cab. He, you know, touches the paper airplane, kisses it, and throws it, and it actually goes and lands in, you know, her cab. And she sees the paper airplane land on her lap, and she understands, obviously, what this means, because why else would there be a paper airplane on your lap? Stops the cab and goes running back to him. I gotta tell you, folks, I'm a dick. Like, I am that stubborn person that would cut off my own fucking nose to spite my face. And I'd be like, nope, too late, motherfucker. You better come after me.
Get your own damn cab and come find me at my restaurant. You know where I live.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, no, I ain't running back to you just because of the paper airplane. Fuck you. You had all goddamn day. You better come running after me now. It's going to take more than a paper airplane, jackass. But meanwhile, I'm not in a rom-com, clearly. She is. So she goes running back to the store. And in the it should have taken more than like 5 minutes tops to get back in the store. But somehow in this 5 minutes time, he searches out a dress for her and sticks it in the elevator with a note. And, like, this is like a part where they go over, like, about whether or not this is creepy good or creepy or good. I have no opinion on this. I mean, one, I'd be shocked if any fucking man knew a woman's size.
Certainly well enough to just be like, yes, this one. And
like, you know, whether, like, if a dude bought me a dress with no, you know, like, in this situation, it doesn't seem as creepy as it should because it's kind of last minute. But if it were, like, outside of the situation, it'd be a little weird for someone to buy an outfit for you without consulting, unless it's, like, you know, kind of an understanding you had. Yeah. Maybe take you shopping, but
I will say, what's creepier? The guy then asking, hey, what's your measurements?
Well, I mean, it's like not knowing the size is a different thing. Just like randomly being like, I think you should wear this. There's a whole
Well,
bunch of
yes,
people and
I
things like
understand
that.
what you're saying there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you have a conversation and he's like, let's go shopping, I'd like to buy you some clothes, just because he's like gonna buy her stuff, or just like you buy your boyfriend or girlfriend stuff when you have that relationship. That's different. Like you go shopping with them and you do fun stuff, whatever. It's not my thing, but it happens. But as opposed to, here, wear this. Anyway, he throws it in the elevator. She sees the dress. She, in like 2 minutes flat, well, she takes the dress, gets out of the elevator. I assume she doesn't put the dress on in the elevator because, damn, that's some super quick changing. However, though, she does somehow manage to get off the elevator, get in the dress, find some shoes, get her hair done, do her makeup, and get jewelry, and get back on the dance floor with him waiting maybe 2 minutes.
There has been a lot of magic going on in that elevator.
I mean, the crab had to be working some super magic on that.
Well, I mean, you did forget about one of the most weirdest parts before all of this.
Oh, please.
The sous chef, when the sous chef cracks open the pear.
Oh, no, that's right after, I think.
I was going to say, that's right now.
Yeah.
Is that right now when the sous chef cracks it open, and then gives the magic crab a taste of his own magic?
But right before he gives the taste of the old magic, he
salivates.
Yeah, he does. He like
it. Yeah.
And then he calls him like my love.
My sweet, I think is what he says. Here,
and I'm like,
what?
The crab bit him. Well, not bit, but clamped down on him earlier when he was being a dick. The crab was like, and he was like, and now they're good friends. Him and the crab.
No, he's in love with that crab. He and the crab are going to get married and last longer than Sarah Michelle Gellar and Bill.
Probably.
And then Magic Crab 2 comes out.
Magic Crab 2.
Magic Crabs.
That's
the babies.
Right.
Come on. You have more than one. But yeah, meanwhile, Sean Patrick Flanery has like 3 minutes of being worried that she's not going to come out and see him. And then, of course, she shows up and you see this lovely scene where like there's just her image across a whole bunch of mirrors, and then he steps up to it. It's actually very pretty visually. And then you have the scene where he's like, I'm sorry. I do love you. I'm a jerk. Please give me another chance. I'll do whatever it takes or whatever. Of course, he's done so little, it wouldn't take much, apparently. And she's like, yeah, you're so stupid. It might take you 6 or 7 tries. And he's like, I'll take whatever I can get. This whole fucking line there makes no sense to me. Like, first of all, you're going to give him 6 or 7 tries? No. No. If you give him one extra one, all right, I'll grant. People fuck up. You can give him at least one redo, but 6 or 7? What's your cap there, girl?
I don't think she had a cap.
No, it's romcom.
She obviously had
every time. It'll be fine. I'm sorry, Betsy. Go ahead.
I said she obviously had no self-esteem, so
yeah, which is weird because she has so much confidence in a lot of other scenes, and then like in this whole. But I mean, I think that's kind of true to form in a lot of ways. A lot of women just go fucking nuts when it comes to being in a relationship. It's just. I mean, I have my own history, so I can't really even picture like what was I thinking. So maybe that was just it. She was probably 22. I did a lot of stupid shit at 22, which led to me getting married at 25, which was even dumber. But I made a brilliant decision to get divorced, though. That was awesome. I liked my divorce a lot. I celebrate it yearly. But they're like, we're in love, we're dancing, everything's forgiven. And then there's like my fun favorite line where he's like, I think I fell in love with you at the farmer's market. And she's like, you mean that first, or the first time I ever saw you? And she's like, you mean when I had my hand up your pants? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, men are so easy. He's like, yeah. And then the movie ends with a very pretty song. But so my general thoughts, like I said, I hated the tropes. I love the weirdness, which most people, why it got canned was because people didn't like the weirdness. But and of course, our magic crab, as you see here, he gets dressed up in his formal wear for like the end.
As he should.
And
as he should.
Gene Riley character ends up randomly conducting the orchestra in the rather gimpy, weird way that looked just like I mimicked. And you see Patricia Clarkson and Dylan Baker happily dancing, and they're clearly not just having sex, like they're clearly very in love, and it's very cute. And so I like that. I loved Betty Buckley. I kind of loved the friendship between Nolan and Amanda, even though like Nolan was not the most supportive friend at some points, but he was like the honest friend, like any place he came at her, he was coming at her from pretty much a truthful point, like even when he was like, maybe your sugar cookies first, he knew she was struggling with cooking, you know, like, so maybe she found her way, maybe she didn't, but maybe you take baby steps first.
Right.
And, you know,
Maybe take this
encouraging
remedial math course.
exactly. You hated algebra, so maybe you should start with like, you know, Common Core math before you jump into trigonometry. I'm just saying. Patricia Clark's character was just a happy spot for me the whole movie. She had some of the best lines. There's some great one-liners. Like there's one point where right before the big debut of the restaurant, there's Sean Patrick Flanery comes out of his closet, literally, not metaphorically. And she comes out, she's there ready to find out, you know, what's taking him so long. And he's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. She's like, oh, you were in last year's tuxedo. And apparently this means he had no pants on. And he looks down, he's like, I don't know what's going on. I completely lost the plot. And I really love that line. I completely lost the plot. It's like one of my favorite things to say when I've totally missed it. But other than that, like it suffers from almost all the rom-com tropes you could possibly think of. And so sometimes it's hard to watch. But date movie wise, it's like one of my favorites because of the weirdness. So it's a witch movie in my opinion. I look at it as a witch movie. So there's Magic Crab movie that I like. There's The Butcher's Wife, which is also rom-com, but it's also a witch movie in my opinion. And there's High Spirits, which is not a witch movie, but it's such a weird haunted ghost castle rom-com, which makes no sense that it's also up there in my. Those are the three I'll watch. And then of course my new favorite, you know, my new favorite, Letters to Satan Claus is my new favorite date movie. But
That's your Christmas movie.
I mean,
it's a date movie though.
Sure.
It's a Hallmark movie.
It is a Hallmark movie, most definitely. But yeah, this movie, on paper, it's just a terrible freaking movie. It really is. But it just, there's something just magical about it. Besides the magic crab, it's just entertaining. It's fun cheese. I mean, it's a romantic comedy. And some romantic comedies are super oversappy and really, really dumb. This one dialed back a fair amount of the tropes, which is why I enjoy it. But don't get me wrong, I'll still watch a romantic comedy. I hate the ones with Matthew McConaughey, but you know, that's just me. But I do.
You don't
I
like
really
Magic
enjoy
Mike?
this movie. You know, I like the first one. I didn't like the second one.
See, I like the second one that he wasn't in
say-
because it's mostly dancing, but
I like the second one and not the first one because the first one suffered from plot.
Well,
That assumes a lot about me.
I'm with you on that, girl. I was like, just show the pretty boys dancing, please.
I mean, sometimes bad movies are good movies. I mean, this movie's a great example of it.
Yeah. Honestly, I hadn't seen it in a while. And when I rewatched it, the first time I was like, what? The second time I was like, okay, this is actually really fun. I kind of dig it.
Exactly. It's just fun. It's dumb fun. Get a bowl of popcorn, enjoy it.
Get a bowl of popcorn, realize you have a crush on Patricia Clarkson.
Especially in that gray dress, it almost turned me. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, damn, I wish, man, can I be a lesbian?
Okay. I mean,
which proves it's not a
she
choice.
is the best thing of the movie. One hands down, the best thing of the movie.
She is. She's wonderful.
Then the magic crab.
The guy who plays the boss is so fun and so funny.
Baker.
He's not like hugely in it, but when he's there, you're just like, I like it when you're here. In fact, I would like to see the other movie, which is the two of them getting together and the romance that happens there.
I agree. Well, you know what?
We'll work on writing that.
I was reading that article, which I shared to you guys, you know, that had like the fun crab dancing in the picture. And actually, so the original movie was supposed to be Holly Hunter was their main character that they wanted to be the love interest. And it was written, you know, as this woman coming into her power. And, you know, I think you see that in the Patricia Clarkson, Dylan Baker kind of relationship. You know, you have this woman who's in her power and she's, you know, equal to this guy. And I mean, obviously not in the workplace equal because he's technically the boss, which is a whole other weird thing that we just don't.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's not get that weird part in there. But, you know, and I just wonder if they had stuck to that, if they were able to stick to that original script, because they said that after that got nixed. So basically Hollywood basically said, you can't have a romantic interest that's in her 30s as a mainstay of a movie. So that's why they like, and then they were going to go with Sarah Jessica Parker, and then that wasn't going to work. So then they went all the way down to somebody who was in her early 20s, which is kind of typical for rom-coms of the time. And that's why you got Sarah Michelle Gellar, and the whole thing ended up being a whole bunch of rewrites as a result. So I wonder what that original script would have been like, you know, with an older woman and like coming into her power. And because, you know, I mean, honestly, as much as like when we're in our early 20s, we like to think that we know what's going on and that we have it together. You know, when you look back, you know, you fucking didn't. You know? Even at 30, we didn't have it that much together. It was like, you know, further along. You know?
I don't pretend. I still don't.
I'm in my 40s still trying to figure it all out.
I mean, I'm a fucking rocket 46, but you know, I mean, still, there's progression. You know what I mean? Like you get further and further, and you come into yourself more and more, and you compromise less and less, and you start, you know, really appreciating Eartha Kitt when she's like, compromise? Why? But yeah. So I mean, I really would love to see that version of the movie. You know, I enjoyed the shit. I enjoyed this, obviously, much as I kept going on about tropes and stuff, because it was funny, and some of the tropes, at least the way they were presented, was at least more amusing and less degrading than normal.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't as like.
Yeah. And they, you know, kind of equaled out like the guy acting like fucked up just as much as the girl acting fucked up, you know. I mean, like the real man baby thing with him locking himself in his office and stuff like that. You don't normally see that level in a rom-com. You know, like they just flat called it out. Like they weren't trying to pull any punches. They're like, no, this guy's kind of a fucked up man baby asshole. That's what's happening here.
And I also appreciated that while it was obvious that she really, really liked him, she was not near as crazed as he was. Like he was way overreacting, like super obsessive. And she was like, I'd really like him to call.
She wasn't staking out at his door trying to arrange like weird situations where they run into each other. You know, it was just, I'd like to see him more. But
right.
No, okay. Yeah, of course, with the crab made it happen. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like some of the stuff that I think was a mistake they did, like they wanted to leave it vague, but I think they left it too vague. So like the whole thing where I was saying earlier, where they didn't want you to know for sure if she was a witch or if her mom was a witch or what was going on with the crab and Gene O'Reilly or whatever. Like it was kind of obvious that the magic crab was a magic crab. So I don't know why that was supposed to be vague.
Right.
Like and clearly the crab had some kind of powers and it was doing some shit.
Well, and why bring her mom into it at all?
Yeah.
Like at all. Because then she finds the earrings. So then for a while I was like, okay, is the crab magic or is he just a crab and the magic is her mother?
Well, and they meant that. That's one of the things they were deliberately doing is vague. They wanted you to start going, well, maybe it's the earrings, or maybe it's Maybelline.
They weaved in the line when the one time when they're at the restaurant and they're getting ready to make out in the kitchen and he starts talking about crab salad and she's like, I don't think that's an ordinary crab.
I mean, one, it's alive in your kitchen after how many fucking days?
Like, so do you know that
the magic was inside you?
Well, you know, that's what you get from the end when Nolan's like, even Dumbo flew without his feather, you know.
Right. But the feather is not the crab. It's or the earrings.
Like, or the earrings. Yeah. Well, she thought they were the earrings, right?
Right. She thought it was the earrings, but they brought the crab. Why? Why did you bring the crab? You weren't going to eat the crab.
Right. And how did that crab not get killed in that other? Oh, here's my dog. Sorry. How did that crab not get killed in the other kitchen? Like you can see how it survived in her kitchen where she didn't kill it or no one didn't kill it. But with all those chefs running, or sous chefs and assistant chefs and like, you know, line cooks, how did nobody like throw that into a pot? Like,
you would assume that one of them would have been like, oh, obviously we're having crab, ka-snap. And
snap.
Sorry, crab. You're my buddy and all, but
it literally doesn't even make sense. Like even the movie wasn't necessarily sure if it was the earrings and her mom or if it was the magic crab, but then they were like, well, the magic crab has to come along. So I'm like, so you're saying it's the crab? That's not vague. That's just presenting us with 15 different things it could be and then making it obvious, but then saying, but it could have been this.
Yeah, it's like the Clue movie. This could have been the ending, but it was this, you know.
Right. But it was actually the magic crab.
Right, which is why I agree too. Like I get that they were trying to leave it up to you, but then they didn't leave it up to you. So why the fuck did you even bother?
Right.
You know,
you could have you could have just made it like, okay, there are these
And
magic
who the fuck
crabs.
is Gene O'Reilly?
Right.
Was this an angel? Is he a saint? Is he a demon from hell? We don't know.
Was he supposed to be like God?
I don't know. He was magic of some sort. I mean, he could teleport, right? I mean, I got
I
nothing.
figured it out. He
Okay.
was the true form of the magic crab.
But he was there simultaneously with the crab. We don't have like, a Bruce Wayne Batman situation.
The Trinity? Could there be something else that he also? Oh my gosh. Okay, it's the Trinity. It's Eugene O'Neill, the crab, and the earrings. They're
There
all
we go.
part of the same thing.
Well, except for they all exist simultaneously at one point, though. Because
Well,
even though
that's
she's supposedly
magic.
forgot her earrings, if you notice at the end there, she ends up with her earrings.
She's wearing them. Yes.
They magically appear. And then you have the magic earrings, the magic crab, and the magic Eugene O'Reilly. In that end scene.
I don't
In the
know
home.
It's the Holy Trinity
how magic
of
works.
crab.
I don't know how magic works. I just know I enjoy it.
I mean, it's magic, so it works with however it works, right? I'm not going to put rules on it for you, but it was, I think where they went wrong is because they made a decision, but they wanted to pretend like they didn't make a decision,
Right.
And I like commitment issues clearly.
I feel like, and I'm sure this had punchers, like people who came to punch up the script, but I think that somebody else should have come in and been like, what?
Well, and to be fair, also, we are looking at in the eyes of our current age.
That's true.
If you're
Well, I mean,
13 or 14, if you're 12, 13, or 14,
But
male
it
or
wasn't made for 12,
female.
13, or 14-year-olds. It was supposed to be, I would say, 20 to 30-year-olds. And we were all
I
within
mean,
that range.
it's a PG-13 romantic comedy.
Right, which is not made for 12 to 13-year-olds.
And it has
You could
Buffy.
be 13 and see it in a theater.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, and it has Buffy. They knew the crowd that they wanted to come and see this movie.
It was the crowd they settled for. I wouldn't say it was the crowd they wanted. Again, like I said,
Well,
this was not written to have Buffy in it.
No. I understand. But I'm saying the end product.
Right.
When they released it, they said, we're going to release it. I forget the date when this was actually released.
It was like February of 99.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I actually saw this in the theaters, and
I
there
didn't
was
know it
one.
hit the theaters.
There was one sole reason that this nerd over here saw it in the theaters when it came out.
Buffy?
No.
Wasn't Buffy?
No, it wasn't Buffy.
Okay, well, reveal the
It
mystery.
was the episode 1 trailer that was attached to it.
I'm so sorry.
That's right. My Star Wars nerdom. And I love Star Wars. There was few movies that got the trailer attached to it. This and Meet Joe Black.
Oh.
Another romantic-ish movie that's obscure.
A movie that I have never seen, but I have seen the part when you get hit by the car.
Like literally I've seen parts of it. Like it's one of those things where like if you leave the cable channel on and like you walk back in the room, you're like,
oh, it's a heinous movie. It's totally heinous.
Yeah, I never watched
It's totally heinous. I mean,
I saw some scene with
yeah,
him and
you're not
Anthony
missing much.
Hopkins,
But
and I
again,
don't even remember what it was.
yeah. But
That's
again,
amazing. That is amazing.
somebody like myself,
that I just saw
somebody like
random scene and don't
myself,
remember it.
no, that went and saw this movie because the episode 1 trailer was in front of it.
Okay.
Because
so
this was
when you
before
saw
you
it in
could
your
get
20s,
the
what did you think?
internet quality. I fell in love with the fact that it was just so bonkers crazy, and it had a magic crab, because that's how I describe this movie to people. I mean, people know its name, but I'm just like, the movie, The Magic Crab. Kind of like the other movie that I know, Pie with Feelings. Do you guys know Pie with Feelings?
Only because I've seen this one.
The
and I
Waitress.
watch it, and I know that you mean
The
The
Waitress.
Waitress. Yeah. Which is another movie
The
I did
Waitress
not
with
like. I
Keri
watched
Russell.
once because of Nathan Fillion, because-
Again, I call that movie Pie with
Firefly.
Feelings, similar to a scene that happened in this when she was all like crying and everything. I'm like, Pie with Feelings, the same thing. even though that's a more tragic movie if you really read the deep dark things of what happened in that in real life.
Abuse and getting free. And
Yeah.
They made that a musical.
I can't fathom that. Like, I probably at some point
It
have to
is
break down and see the musical to understand how you make a movie
the most
basically about escaping an
depressing
abusive
soundtrack.
relationship.
The director of that movie, who was also the co-writer of that movie, got killed by her boyfriend before the movie came out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that
I
movie's got a
mean-
lot of weird stuff. And what's crazy is she wrote the abuse because she was abused herself.
I was gonna say that's probably not crazy. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying in terms of like the background behind that. But let me go back to this movie. So again, I saw this movie. Yeah, I was in my 20s, and I took my brother to see it, my younger brother. And I love my younger brother, but he's a jock. He will always have the jock mentality. He watched
he
the
was-
episode one trailer, was like, "This is awesome!" Da, 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 da. And he had, I think, because he graduated in '98, so this was like
18, 19. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like midway through this movie, he's like, "Can I go to your car and leave and pick you up?" I go, "No, we're watching this movie. This is great." Granted, I'm at the Lennox and there's maybe 10 or 15 people there. Though at the start of the movie, there was at least 30. So I know people paid it, watched the trailer. So yeah.
So apparently we have talked about this movie longer than the movie actually runs, which is kind of par for the course for us. But
But Magic Crab,
yeah,
I love it.
because I mean Magic Crab.
People watch it. I mean, it probably doesn't hold up, but it's still a fun movie.
Although there was nothing like super egregious, nothing super egregious.
No.
They did have like a person of color as a character who wasn't just like in the background. Like he actually served a purpose. As far as that goes, there were 2 female characters who actually had something to do, kinda. 3 female characters who had something to do. So as far as that goes, it's actually checking more boxes than some other ones. I think it passed the Bechdel test, because certainly there were conversations between her and her aunt that were more than like 2 lines. So, I mean, as far as that goes, it's not the most problematic 90s movie that has ever
At all. Yeah.
No, as far as it goes, it's actually okay. Like I said, like there was that one fat joke, but other than that, it was
Actually kind of progressive for its time in all reality. And like as much as I complained about it, when you think about rom-coms, especially in the 90s, yeah, I mean, you had male-female friendships that were not like tension or sexual or weird, and the other person in it, one of them didn't have to be gay for them to be able to have a relationship that was
right.
just amicable and friendly. You had at least 3 strong female characters, and actually the most immature, not strong characters were the male ones. I mean, you had kind of Jonathan Bindle being kind of my grandfather with daddy issues, I guess, in a sense. You had, John Patrick Flanery's character with commitment issues, and, Nolan with his dolls. Though of the 3 males, he was the least, issue oriented. So yeah, I think it was I think that's why it actually, one of the many reasons it appealed to me so much when I watched it. So, because I was like 25, 26 when I saw it. And also in a place where I wanted romance on some level, but was never really had it. And, sounds stupid, but since I never really hadn't had bad examples of it in real life, I would look to movies for something, and most of them completely disgusted me. And I thought that was a bad plan. This seemed healthier than the other ones.
Certainly.
And Kitchen Witch. So, yeah.
Certainly.
So,
there was a
I
whole lot less negging, although, I mean, he does call her a witch, but I don't think that it wasn't necessarily, I'm not going to say I don't think it wasn't earned, but it was obviously he was freaked out because of the magic stuff. And
he was freaked out by a woman with power,
And I can't say that if I floated to a ceiling,
I wouldn't be freaked out.
I wouldn't be a little freaked out. And might just yell witch at somebody. But you know, yeah, it as far as that goes, really not that problematic. Watch it. It's good. It's very fun to watch.
Yep. And Magic Crab.
And Magic Crab.
Magic
And
Crab
in a top hat at the end, so and bow tie, you know.
Magic Crab and Patricia Clarkson is all you need.
And random breakouts of poetry.
That part was so weird. It makes me think of the poems that I never wrote.
And even ties in the theme song for it, Once in a Blue Moon, in that poem, by the way. My dog liked it. See, she's adoring of it. You just get her ears. Here you go. But anyway, so
one more thing.
Oh, go please.
The cover from Sean Colvin of Everything She Does Is Magic was maybe the worst cover of a song I've ever heard.
Agreed.
I was like,
I didn't want to bring up hate. But
I just have to say that cover, I literally was like, it's not magic. I don't know what's happening. Why? Just get the police.
Like, why weren't we just using Sting's song? What is happening?
Oh my God. They couldn't afford it.
I've heard a rap cover of it that is 100 times better.
But
yeah.
One song, otherwise, really good movie.
Oh,
Agreed.
and the random like music that they threw in there during the scenes where people were adjusting their belts, fucking hilarious and perfect. It was like the perfect noise for that. You know? Like, I mean, I can watch the movie just for those scenes where she's walking by and she notices every time a dude is like staring at a girl's ass or whatever, and he's like doing, doing, pulling his belt. It's so funny. And I mean, anytime, like, maybe it was just me, but after I saw that movie, I kept like watching to see how many times dudes grab their pants, like not their crotches, but just their pants. And I was like, it happened more than I expected it would have.
No comment. You hear that, Emmett? Stop grabbing your pants, Emmett.
You know, Emmett doesn't grab, he licks.
Okay, fair
He's
enough.
a dog. That's what they do. Let's just be honest. But yeah, so this is probably our most frivolous episode we will ever have. But it was a fun movie. Watch it if you get a chance, just to see how insane it is, and so your home brain can be like, "What the hell is going on here?" And then let it go, I guess.
Or comment on the Facebook page of how wrong we were.
Or why the hell did we even bother with this movie? But or
how much you love it, because I get
Yeah.
it. I totally get it. If this is your favorite movie in the world, sure.
Amen.
But until then, well, see, John Paul's got an episode, a live recording of Shockfest coming up, which by the time you see this will probably already have happened, but but you can probably check out, after the fact, because it will be recorded, where he's going to be torturing Randy with innocent blood.
Valentine's Day special.
There you go. Me and Betsy will be recording a new podcast along with our other friend Rebecca, which is going to be Girls Ghosts Ghouls, and we're going to be revealing later in the week. Again, you will already have seen this by the time you already have seen the live thing by the time this gets out, but we'll be revealing what we are going to review first for that podcast on Saturday the 13th, which I don't know, I love the 13th. Whatever date it falls on, it always sounds ominous, whether it's Friday the 13th, Saturday the 13th, Wednesday the 13th, it always just sounds
the 13th.
awesome. And Betsy, we didn't really talk about the local Wenches Guild. Do you want to say a blurb or two about that?
Sure. The Wenches Guild is a Renaissance Fair based group that I am a part of. It is international. It's the International Wenches Guild. So in the last couple of years, we've established a local in Ohio, which is Local 73, and I am the madam, so I'm in charge. So it's really fun. It's a great group of women. If you're interested and love the Renaissance Festival, you can find us, Friends of IWG 73 on Facebook. And it's just really fun. We have a great time. We try to do stuff outside of it as well. We dress up. It's just really, really fun. So if you're interested, you can find us. And look for us at the Renaissance Festival. So, and if you go out to the Renaissance Festival site, there are a couple things about us. So you can look up Wenches on the site and it'll bring us up.
Cool. And also,
Wonderful.
if you're interested in belly dance or yoga, you can check out Sacred Shimmy Studios on Facebook or angienever.com for classes and shows and offerings. And we'll catch you next time.